Today, I want to talk to you about something really important. And if you're serious about your retirement, then this is a really important topic because most federal employees will encounter this at some point. In fact, a few months ago, I had 4 separate families reach out to us, and I'm going to give you a real example of how it can happen. So imagine that you're sitting at a retirement seminar at your agency to learn about your FERS benefits, the TSP, and the process of retiring from service. The folks presenting may have called themselves retirement consultants, retirement specialists, nonprofit, etc. Notice that I didn't say advisor, and I'll get to why in a bit. And at some point, they may say something like, if you want to learn how to maximize your retirement, we'll give you a free personalized retirement consultation. And here's where things get a little tricky. If you decide to speak to somebody about your retirement, who are you really talking to? Folks, this is really important, so make sure you listen carefully and maybe even take notes. In the financial world, there are 2 sets of rules that financial professionals follow. True advisors are fiduciaries, you may have heard this word, and they are acting within your best interest, or at least they have to be. But if someone is not a fiduciary advisor, they follow what's called the suitability rules. That means that when they make a recommendation to people, it just has to be suitable. But as we all know, just because something is suitable doesn't mean that it's the best thing for us. You ever try something that's one size fits all? It doesn't really fit anyone well. Someone who is a financial professional and someone who is a fiduciary retirement advisor, not only are these 2 different things, they're completely different concepts altogether. And if someone is giving you recommendations about your retirement, the most important and significant financial part of your life, how can you know that they are acting in your best interest? Well, they're a nonprofit, so they must be, right? Not quite. But here's where it gets tricky. They may be doing the presentation as a nonprofit, but when offering the free consultation afterwards, they may be representing a totally different firm, such as an insurance company. And unfortunately, a lot of times this is not really made clear, especially if it's the same person or group offering both the presentation and the consultation afterwards. Now, sometimes it's not the same group. In fact, I know several incredible firms that do retirement seminars, and that's all they do. Now, they may have a relationship with others so that if you have specific questions, they may refer you to those people. And folks, there's nothing wrong with this, but you need to understand what kind of financial professional are you actually talking to? And here's a question you can ask yourself. Are you buying a product, or are you buying a relationship? Because if the people you are speaking to about your retirement are prejudiced towards a product, then they are not educators. They are salespeople who are using education as a lure. And these are people who give my industry a bad name because they make you think that it's quick and easy when in reality, retirement is a complex process and every family is different. So the solutions should be different too. And if they are not taking the time to understand you fundamentally as a family, and instead just presenting a specific product, then they're not really interested in your best interest. They're really just looking to make a sale. So, how do we avoid making a mistake? How can you tell who you're really speaking to? Well, number 1, beware of nonprofits. Folks, there's no free lunch. In fact, if they are calling themselves a nonprofit and it's the same organization doing the sales calls, I'd argue that's actually misleading. And we've seen this be the case in reality from feds who have told us these stories. The presentation that they're giving may be under a nonprofit name or organization, but when they offer you the free consultation, which is also known as the sales call, they should be explaining that they're no longer representing the nonprofit, but now instead they're wearing the hat of representing this other firm. Because when you're managing your wealth and your retirement, that is a service. That's not a product. Now, let me clarify something here. We also talk to families a few times before we agree to work with someone, and we don't charge for these initial conversations. This is in no way a free consultation. These conversations are designed to help us understand the financial position of someone who's interested in working with us so that we can determine if we can even help them in the first place. Our interest is not in getting a sale done, it's in being able to successfully help our clients. And once we determine that we can, only then do we say, hey, let's work together. And again, folks, I have no problem with people selling their services, but I do have a problem if the thing they're selling is basically the same thing for every federal employee. When you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail to you. And in retirement, there are several tools and strategies that you need to use to help yourself be successful. Now, often they're trained to really just offer this one thing, and so I'm going to cover exactly what that is here in just a minute. And I'll tell you, for most federal employees, we've not found this to be the best thing for them. The other way to avoid a mistake is to watch out for certain kind of language that you see. If you ever hear someone say, protect your TSP, but also have the opportunity for growth, you should pay really close attention. Said another way, you're guaranteed to never lose any money that you put in, but you can also still grow it at the same time. Folks, you've heard me say this countless times already. Risk and return are two peas in a pod. Those things go hand in hand. Now, more risk does not always mean more return, but for you to have any kind of return, you need one of two things. You need to take some level of risk, like investing in stocks, bonds, whatever. Or you can also use these specialized insurance programs or something similar. And the one that gets pitched to federal employees all the time is indexed annuities. But wait a minute, Thiago, that actually sounds great. I get to protect my TSP investment from loss, and I also get to have growth in the markets as well? And they said there's no fees? That sounds great. Well, not so fast. Let's take a few minutes to talk about exactly how these programs work. First up is no fees. Honestly, this is straight up misleading to me. There may not be implicit fees, but do you think that the insurance company is doing this for free? No fees doesn't mean that there aren't any costs. And I'll explain how this works here in just a bit. Next, participate in market growth without any risk of losing your money. This is another really catchy sales line. This one is actually true, but there are some details that are conveniently left out and are buried inside the policies and the fine print. I'll explain this one in just a minute too. Another one, if you're being presented a retirement packet that is really just an insurance policy with some graphs and charts and things like that, then there's very likely a large commission check that's waiting for that agent if they can get you to sign up. This is why they typically make people leave their money inside these plans for something like 7 to 10 years. This is because they paid a commission to the salesperson, and now the company needs to make up their money from the internal costs that are built in. Remember, no fees, right? Now, I don't have an issue with people earning a commission. In fact, I paid a commission when I bought my car, I paid a commission when I bought my house, I paid a commission also when I bought my life insurance policy. In fact, we often refer clients to insurance agencies that we trust when they have an insurance need. But what I do have an issue with is saying that insurance is going to be some magical retirement solution. So if they say that they want to help you secure your retirement, and if the answer is an annuity or some kind of product, then we think that you should just look elsewhere. Annuities can be really great things. In fact, as a Fed, you already have 2 annuities that you've been paying for your whole career. Your FERS pension is an annuity, and so is Social Security. So why would you want to give up the liquidity of your retirement assets and lock it up inside a third annuity? We've looked at these plans before, and we've not found a circumstance under which this was the best thing for a federal employee. And we've seen people be misled. I said earlier, 4 families in the same week really didn't understand what they were purchasing. And so we're trying to help inform the federal community so that if you come across something like this, not that you need to run away or ignore it altogether, but that you have a greater base of education and a foundation of information so that you can make the best decision for you and your family. All right, so now let's say despite all of these things, you are actually still interested in one of these products. Let's talk about exactly how they work, costs, and all sorts of things that you need to know. The first thing that you need to know are surrender periods. These are the 7 to 10, sometimes 11 years that you need to have your money captive inside the policy because they need to recoup their costs in paying the commission to the agent. So this means that if you're going to change your mind any time between then, like you want to do something else with your money, they're going to charge you a penalty, and it can be a pretty significant amount depending on how long you've been in the plan. So make sure your life doesn't change or anything in 10 years. Now, they do also offer what's called a penalty-free withdrawal. That's typically a 10% that you can take out annually. Now, the next one are fees or costs. They don't call them fees per se, but these are the ways that the insurance company is obviously making a profit. There's 2 that you need to know about. The first are caps, and the second are what are called participation rates. Let's first talk about caps. Think of it as like a cap on something. So essentially it's the maximum amount that you can get. So in the policy, they may say that you can use something like the S&P 500 index for the returns. But what they're going to do is they're going to cap the amount of return that you can get. The reason they do this is because they're offering you guarantees. For instance, at the time of shooting this video, the S&P is up something like 15 or 16% year to date. And I just saw a policy not too long ago that had a 7% cap. So that means that if the year ends and it's up 16%, well, the investor is actually only going to get 7%. And so your fee was actually the spread between what you earned and what the index actually returned. Or in this case, it would have been 9%. Now, again, maybe you're okay paying 9% for the guarantees that you're being offered, but this is most definitely a cost that investors are going to bear. So I don't like it that some of these policies say they have no fees. Another really important detail to know is that when you look at the total return of the S&P 500, let's say 16%, not all of that is straight price increases. Some of that total return comes in the form of dividends and interest. For example, Fidelity shows that over the last 20 years, ending in December 2021, the S&P 500 index was up something like 9.5%. And this is with dividends and interest. But if you remove the dividends and interest, the amount returned annually is actually only 7.3%. So that 2% difference is a fee that you're essentially paying by not participating in dividends and interest, because guess who gets to keep that? The insurance company. Again, not officially a fee, but it is a cost. And so the next up are participation rates. This is the percentage of the index's return that the company is going to credit to your account. In sticking with our example that the S&P was up 15%, for instance, and if the participation rate was only 85%, that means only 12 3/4, I believe, would actually be credited, but not if it's above the cap, which in our example was 7%. So again, you would still only get 7%. Now, if the index did 6%, for instance, 85% would be something like 5.1%. And so that is, of course, you would get the full amount. Now, some indexed annuities can also have what's called a spread. So this would basically be a part of the gains that would go to the insurance company. Some of them also have riders, which are essentially additional features that you can purchase, of course, at an additional cost. Now, with all of that said, these are not bad products per se. There are a lot of studies that show that annuities can really be helpful in making a successful retirement plan. But as a federal employee, you already have 2 annuities like we talked about. So this would be like buying another car just because, even though you don't need it. The car might be nice, but you don't need it. And if you need help with your retirement, we'll offer you a free retirement consultation. I'm joking. Thanks for joining us. And if you found this at all helpful, hit the thumbs up button so YouTube can share it with other federal employees too. And we hope to see you on the next video. Until then, stay wise and stay wealthy.